All right, so we're solving some proportions today. You might not know what the word proportions means, but hopefully you've heard of like being proportional or, taking a portion of a pie. So pretty much what this means is just talking about it being equal. If something's proportional, it's equal. So like both sides of the scale are proportional. They're the same. So we're going to be looking at two ratios and seeing if they are proportional. We're going to see if they're equivalent. So before we start doing any examples, let's do a quick definition. So a proportion is two ratios that are equivalent. All right, and once again, equivalent means that they're equal, they're the same. So both sides need to be the same. We got just a few steps, and I'm going to write these out. Typically, at this point in the school year, we have done decimals. We've done other things that make this a little bit easier. We haven't done any of that yet this year because the pacing guide changed. But we're going to be doing all this on the calculator, so it really makes things easier for you at the moment. But I'm still going to write these steps out so that when we come back to this later in the year, once we've done some other things, it might make some more sense. So our steps are, first thing we're going to do is cross multiply the two given / known numbers. Once again, these steps aren't going to make much sense to you at the moment because you haven't done any examples, but once you do some examples, these will make more sense, and I'll come back and reference them so you can understand what to do. All right, step number 2, divide the product by the unused number. So in other words, whatever you get for number 1, because remember you're multiplying, whatever you get as the answer there, you're going to divide by the number here. Okay? Once again, it'll make more sense once you see an example. So far, we're doing some multiplying and then we're doing some dividing. And I told you, there's a calculator for all of this, so don't worry. All right. Last step, cross multiply to check your work. All right, and those are only steps. All right. If you need to pause me to get those written down, you can. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep going and do some examples so that you can see these steps actually in work. All right, so some examples. Once again, if you don't have your calculator out, feel free to pull that out. So we'll start off easy. All right, if I give you the ratio 1/4 is equal to 8/D. Now, once again, like I said, typically at this point in the year, we've talked about some of the things that we're about to be doing. But once again, Pitt County changed the pacing guide this year, so things are a little bit different. So I kind of have to go over some things real quick. If you don't know, I know that we did this back during geometry, but we do use letters in math. Crazy, but true. We call these variables, and we call them variables because they vary. They change from problem to problem. It's not like D is going to equal the same thing for every single problem. It doesn't have to be D. It can be any letter. We do try to avoid certain letters like O or L. Those can be mistaken for zeros or ones. But pretty much what your goal is to figure out what D equals. Figure out what variable right here equals. All right. Now this kind of easy. Actually, multiple ways to do it, but I'm going to do it the way that we said in our steps up here. So we're going to take it one step at a time. Like I said, the whole purpose of this is trying to figure out what D is. Remember, this is a proportion. So whatever this side equals, this side needs to equal as well. Okay? So, Step number 1 says to cross multiply the two given or known numbers. All right, so when you cross multiply, it means you're going across like a butterfly. A lot of people call this the butterfly method. Not exactly the same thing, but we are cross multiplying. So we're literally going to circle the numbers that we could be multiplying. Okay? Well, if you look at the ones that I've circled, the step number 1 says cross multiply the two given or known numbers. Well, when I circled this, 1 and D, one of those numbers is not given. One of them is not known. So I can't possibly multiply those, okay? So when I say multiply the two given ones, I want you to multiply the ones that have actually been written down, the ones that have actually been given to you, okay? So that will be 4 and 8, okay? So what is 4 times 8? Well, obviously 4 times 8 is 32. So we're going to write that there. And the reason that's important is because, like we said, it's a proportion, so that they need to be equal on both sides. So if this side right here gives me 32, well then when I do D times 1, this also needs to give me 32. So whatever it is needs to be 32. Now this one's a little easy because it's involving a 1. But the next step says divide the product by the unused number. The product will be the 32 we just got. Remember, product is a fancy word for the answer to a multiplication problem. So I get 32. I'm going to divide it by the number I haven't used yet. Well, I just used 4. I just used 8. D's not a number, so I have to be by 1. So then 32 divided by 1, hopefully you know, is 32. Now the last step would be to actually check your work. So 4 times 8 equals 32. If I plug in 32 right here, so like you would take out this D, 32 times 1 also gives me 32. So it does work and it is a proportion, okay? Another way you could think about it is, remember now this is 8 over 32 because this D is gone and 32 is in its place. If you simplified 8 over 32, you would get 1 over 4. So it does still equal a proportion. Let's try another one. Maybe some more difficult numbers. All right, so we've got 17 over n equals 102 over 150. Okay? Another thing I need to add about proportions is that this variable can change spots. It doesn't always have to be in the same spot. It can be on the top, bottom, left, right. It doesn't matter. What you do need to know is that you're always going to have 3 of those spots. There's 4 spots, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 of them are always going to be given to you. You're always going to have to find one of them, okay? And that one that you have to find is going to be where the variable is. Like I said, it can change spots, so don't let that throw you off. One other thing, though, is that if it's an improper fraction, so what I mean by that is if the bigger number is on top on this side, so if this was 150 over 102, then when you solved it on this side would also need to be improper. It would need to have the bigger number on top. Because remember, it's a proportion. So if the big number's on top one side, the big number has to be on top on the other side as well. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this. Let's go ahead and draw I guess you could say. So remember, you want to multiply the numbers that you're actually given. Well, if you look at one of those numbers, so I can't find this side. It has to be them. So I'm doing 7 times 150. Please feel free to use your calculator. So 17 times 150 gives me 2,550. Okay? Once again, that's important because this side has to equal the same thing. All right? So now, step 2 said divide the product by the unused number. Well, remember, I just used 17 and 150. So those two are now gone. They're not there anymore. N isn't a number. So the only number left for me to use is this 102. So you take it and you divide it by the product you got. So I got 2,550 divided by 102, and I get 25. Now remember, I need to check to make sure that this is correct. Okay, so let's see. If I have 25 over here, that would be 25 times 102. And it does give me 2,550. So yes, it is correct. Okay, let's try another one. All right, let's do x over 40 equals 48 over 120. Okay, so remember the whole purpose is to get these sides to be equal to one another. So I need to find something that goes on top of 40 that's going to equal the same thing as the other side. Let me draw my cross multiplying. All right, I can't do x times 120 because that's not a number. So I have to be doing 40 times 8, which is 1,920, which means this side needs to equal the same thing. Okay, I just used 40, I just used 48, they're gone. So the only thing left for me to divide by is 120. So I'm going to take that 1,920, divide it by 120, and I get 16. So just to make sure, 16 times 120 does equal 1,920. Okay? All right, so I do want to take 1 second to look at your homework with you to make sure you're good with that. So we're doing the same thing here. All right, I'm just going to pick a random one. It doesn't matter which one you pick. Let's see. Let's do Z right here. Okay? So once again, remember, you're going to cross multiply. Okay? So I can't do n times 72, so I must be doing 4 times 18, which equals 72. All right, so then you do 72 divided by 72, because that's the number I haven't used yet, and obviously I get 1. So n equals 1. So then what you would do is you would come up here, find a 1, which is right here, and I'm going to put a Z because that was the letter that went with it. I don't see any other 1s. All right, I got time to do another one. Now I will say that sometimes proportions are really nice. I hope this doesn't throw you off too much. Understanding how to do a proportion, then don't switch up what we're doing. But ratio tables sometimes find a connection with the proportion. So like for example, this right here. Look at these numbers. Sometimes they're connection to get from one to the other, just like a ratio. So like what 2 gets me to 7. Sorry, I just told you the answer. What 2 gives me to 12? You know that's times 6. So 2 times gives me 12. Well, whatever the top you can to the bottom. So you get times 6. Times 6 gives me 30. Now just to show you what I'm talking about, if we did the way we weighted notes, times 12 is 60, and then did 60 divided by 2, you would still get 30. So sometimes you can find a connection. Sometimes there's not a connection, so you have to multiply. So like for this one, there's not a connection with 15. Nothing times 9 is going to give me 15. So this is when you're just going to cross multiply. Like this one right here, S. There is a connection to 9. What 3 gets me to 9? Well, obviously that would be times. Be done. So now I need to go to the times the top by 3. I have to do by 3. Well, 3 is going to give me 12. So that tells me that has to be 12. So that's just a quicker way. Sometimes, like I said, it doesn't always be nicely like that. For example, another one that's not nice. Nothing times is going to give me 21. So this is one of those that cross multiply, then divide. Okay. So let's just go up here real quick and I'll put these answers in. So everywhere I see a 30, I'm putting an I. And whenever I see a 12, I'm putting an S. Okay. All right. So that's how you do your homework, and that's how you solve a proportion.